So 5 Feet Apart is the latest in the teen dying drama. You know the kind. There's been a few films like this we've had, a little bit more over the years, where, you know, some teenager is affected with some, like, crippling condition that's going to shorten their lifespan and eventually, you know, lead to, like, an early death. And then they learn to find romance amid tragedy. Basically, you know, like the boy in the bubble type stuff. So we've had like a few films like this. You know, we've had like obviously The Fault in Our Stars, and there's been other stuff like Everything Everything and Midnight Sun. So we've become accustomed to these type of films. So I mean, you can almost set like your watch to how like this romance is going to play out. But the good news is, I think that this film is just focused enough on both the medical aspects and its heart that I think that it comes off a little bit better in this genre that's usually kind of just just kind of goes through the motions, you know. So we start off in the hospital with this teenager Stella, who's played by Haley Lou Richardson, and she basically informs us that she has cystic fibrosis. And what this essentially means is you have a lot less lung and a lot more mucus. So you're having trouble breathing, and you're basically not going to live that long. Basically, your lungs are failing. And you can eventually, if you're lucky, you can have enough treatments that you can get, like, a lung transplant. And you might tack on, like, a few extra years to your life. The unfortunate thing about this, though, is that, you know, because of this, you have to go through the clinical trials, which basically means you have to, like, live in the hospital, which kind of sucks for Stella. The good news is that she's not alone. She has two other people in the ward who both have cystic fibrosis. Man, I gotta learn to say that correctly. She has one person who's been there a while, Poe, who's played by Moses Arias. And he's kind of like grown attached to Stella. He's a gay character, and he's gone through like a few different boyfriends. Can't really hold down a relationship, and it's kind of worn on him a little bit. But he's good friends with Stella. And the other person who's new to the ward is Will, played by Cole Sprouse, who's basically he's kind of become very, very dour about the situation. He's basically like, you know, there's a very low survival rate. You know, we don't even know if these treatments will help or if it'll do anything. So, you know, what's the point? Why should I even do this? And of course, Stella, who's kind of grown more accustomed to both the treatment and, to her own mortality, realizes that, you can't just give up. And so she wants to, like, smack some sense into Will. The good news is she's not alone. The bad news is, because of cystic fibrosis, she can't be within 6 feet of other people who have this condition. Because if she does, then she risks cross-infection. And if she gets cross-infection, basically means that her condition worsens, and that if she actually has a chance of a lung transplant, that ain't gonna happen. So she's got to be 6 feet apart, except, wait, the film's called 5 Feet Apart? And there was, like, some, like, breakout within, like, the medical community saying, like, yeah, they got it wrong, it's 6 feet apart. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of the point here, is that eventually Stella realized that, I hate being 6 feet apart from them. How about just 5 feet apart? Like, we're going to break the rules. We're going to be 5 feet apart here. So she basically wants to, live a little bit more. And she grows more attached to Will, obviously, that they kind of want to risk being more together and both kind of like live outside the hospital, trying to live their lives in a different way. Now, the thing about this film is, like, yeah, the romance and the tragedy pretty much goes by the book here. Even the dialogue is pretty by the book in a few scenes. Like, there's a handful of scenes here where Will just has to outright say, "I love you." Like, there's no other way he can think to say it. Just like, well, like, I love you. Just say it outright and straight like that. No subtlety there. And the thing is, I feel like we kind of, like, miss on some grander stuff that could have been more interesting here. Like, I love the fact that, like, Stella's kind of read up on these books about mortality and her condition, that she's kind of become comfortable with it. Comfortable enough to explain all these, like, YouTube videos that she explains, like, how cystic fibrosis works, what kind of medication she's got to take, what kind of breather she's got to use, the special vibrating vest she's got to use. And I love that she kind of clashes with Will in this idea about, like, how to come to terms with your condition and how to perceive death. Like, there's a very sweet scene when they go on a little kind of like mini date in the hospital. They wish they go. Thank you so much, Gamer Thirst, for the follow there. And breaking that up there. So, I shouldn't be laughing about such a dour film, should I? So I like that they have this kind of conversation about the afterlife and how they perceive, like, you know, that maybe there's something out there, or maybe there isn't, and they kind of have this kind of great chemistry where they kind of go back and forth there. And I love how they get closer, even though, you know, they're basically risking their lives by being so close to each other at the behest of this nurse who's basically like, no, you two, you get apart. She's trying to drive a wedge between them for good reason, obviously. One aspect I did love of the film, though, is how much like the stuff that needs to be spelled out is spelled out well, but I love the fact that it doesn't kind of go through certain motions of explaining every little detail. Like, I love how we're plopped right down into the hospital. Like, we're given a little bit of narration, and then we go straight to the hospital. We get introduced to everything that Cell's going through, and then piece by piece we learn more about the backstories and the more tragic histories behind each character and the difficulties they're going through. And it's pretty. I gotta admit, it was starting to get to me. By the second act, it kind of eases into this great little vibe where you kind of feel comfortable with these characters and their world, to kind of like prep us for like the third act when things start to turn much darker. And that by the time we get to that point, because obviously you can tell that this is going to go to a dark territory here. By the time we get to that point, I think we've spent enough time with the characters, just enough that we can like them. That when we get to like the eventual tragic climax, we feel something. Like, I gotta admit, I was starting to feel a little bit of a lump in the throat there when we got to the end there. And sure enough, I started looking around the theater, and I heard sniffles, I heard exhales, I heard yelps. I even heard it from, there was a couple behind me who, when Stella and Will were starting to get close to each other, basically risking their lives by edging closer to getting a kiss in. They were kind of like responding the way you respond to like a horror film. Like, we were like, don't go in there. It's like, oh God, I can't watch this. Like they were literally saying like, I can't watch this crap. And then sure enough, by the end, they were sobbing. There were tears breaking out there. So yeah, if you're looking for kind of like something similar to Fault in the Stars, where it's very much about embracing your own mortality and like this kind of like dying teen drama, and accepting being close to someone and accepting your death, it gets the job done. It's pretty effective. It's not gonna like redefine the dying teenager romance drama, but hey, what can I say? It does what it promises, and I gotta admit, it almost did put a little lump in my throat. And it made me ride Eternal Shining Chrome. So for 5 Feet Apart, 3 out of 5 stars.